The Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privileges of the floor will kindly retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will please stand and be led in prayer by the Reverend Jacob Sams, Wesley United Methodist Church, Hopewell. Reverend Sams, welcome.
Will you please pray with me? God of peace and justice, we pray today that you would give us your wisdom, that you would extend to us your vision for the world. We ask that you would help us to see each other as you see us, and bless us with the knowledge we need for this day. Hear the cries of your people as we long to see a world full of peace and grace, where all have enough in safety and rest. We recognize that these things are still hoped for and admit our inability to accomplish them without you. Show us the way to think and to act as we work together, that our decisions would shape a world in your image, that our needs and wants would be perfectly balanced, that peace would be our ultimate focus in the service of others. On this day and every day, we thank you for your blessings to us and ask that you would use us to be a blessing to others. Amen.
Amen. Clerk will please call the roll. All those present will vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Tuesday, February the 14th, 2017.
The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no other senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? If any senators desire to change their votes, the clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the House of Delegates. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Good morning, Mr. President. I respectfully move we waive the reading of any communications received from the House of Delegates.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communications from the House of Delegates be waived? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no other senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The reading of the communication is waived. The clerk will please report any communications from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The time has come to recognize visitors to our gallery and take up other matters for the morning hour. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for 2 introductions.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining us in the gallery today, we have a group of employees visiting from Dominion Resources, headquartered right here in the city of Richmond, here for their annual Dominion Day at the General Assembly. On behalf of the senior senator from Richmond and the senator from Petersburg, I ask that the Senate give them a warm welcome.
I will. Thank you, Senator. Would members from Dominion PAC please rise if you're with us? Well, okay. We have a great group from Dominion. Thank you all so much for being here with us this afternoon, and thanks for all that you do for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and thanks for keeping our lights on at home. So we appreciate that. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Dominion PAC the warm welcome of the Senate. The junior senator from Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also joining us in the gallery, we have students from the Sexual Assault Resource Agency, or SARA, from Charlottesville, Virginia. Lori Jean Seaman, the lead prevention coordinator of SARA, and students from Charlottesville High School, Sarah Hale, Molly Pepper, and Ellen Yates. These students, as well as Sarah Sawalski, worked with me on Senate Bill 1475, which passed this body nearly unanimously, to strengthen the family life education requirements regarding sexual assault and consent. Sarah's mission is to eliminate sexual violence and its impact through education, advocacy, and support for men, women, and children. And this legislation is part of their agenda, and we're here today to see it acted on the other side of the hall. And so I ask that you give these students from Sarah a warm Senate welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from Sarah please rise? Well, welcome to the gallery. Welcome. And we really appreciate you advocating and educating folks against sexual assault. It's so important in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And just really commend you for your work as high schoolers in doing this. And so we appreciate you being here in Richmond and hope you have an enjoyable day. As you probably have seen, there's a tremendous amount of history here in Mr. Jefferson's capital. So we hope you have a great day and safe travels. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members of Sarah the warm welcome of the Senate. The senior senator from Richmond, Senator Sturtevant.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, joining us in the gallery today is a group of journalism students from Cosby High School in Chesterfield, along with their teacher, Miss Weekly. These students keep the Cosby student body informed by writing news, sports, and entertainment articles and columns for the school's digital newspaper, the Cosby Bolt. They've also been following and researching several of our bills from this session, and they've spent their morning here at the General Assembly visiting members and discussing these bills as part of future stories they'll be writing for their newspaper at Cosby. Mr. President, I ask that we offer the Cosby High School students the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would the journalists from Cosby High School please rise? Wow, what a great group. You all have plenty of folks to help write today. So I'm glad you're here, and if you can stick around a little bit, you'll be able to see how policy and laws are made in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So hopefully be a very interesting day for you, and best of luck in your educational endeavors. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from Cosby High School the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to thank you, Mr. President, for visiting this morning the Military and Veterans Caucus and helping to talk a little bit about the arts and working with our veterans. And thank you for your leadership on those issues as the Lieutenant Governor. Mr. President, in the gallery today I have two introductions, really, but first I'd like to introduce the Honorable Laura Rudy. Laura is the treasurer in Stafford County, so on behalf of the senator from Stafford County and myself, we'd like to give her the warm welcome. And also, if she could give a shout-out to her husband, who was my police captain. I don't know if Tim's here today or not, but Tim Rudy as well, Mr. President, who is now retired from Prince William County Law Enforcement, but the Honorable Laura Rudy.
Thank you, Senator. The Honorable Laura Rudy, and if Tim is with you, would you please rise? Well, welcome this afternoon, and thanks for all the great work that you do for our Commonwealth. And just a little bit of a history. Our office is in the Oliver Hill building, which used to be the treasury here in Richmond. So we actually still have a vault. And I guess my message is, if you all have any extra money in your treasury, you're welcome to bring it over to the Oliver Hill building. But thanks for being here, and please send our regards to your husband, Tim, as well. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering the Honorable Laura Rudy the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to introduce a dear lady and a group of members from the Fredericksburg Head Start. Mr. President, I always look forward to getting home out of session because when I visit the Head Start, they always make fresh coconut cake. It's kind of a timeless tradition, and I absolutely enjoy Ms. Johnson and her group when they do that. And if you'll give them the warm welcome from the Fredericksburg Head Start.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Fredericksburg Head Start please rise? Thank you all so much for visiting with us today, and thanks for all that you do for our children. And we certainly know as parents that our children have just amazing learning potential before they ever get to kindergarten. And so it's so important for you to reach out and have an influence on these very impressionable children at a young age. So we thank you for your efforts and hope you have a wonderful stay here in Richmond. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Fredericksburg Head Start the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Prince William County, Senator McPike.
Mr. President, I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Today in the gallery we have the president of the Flory Small Business Center, Ms. Linda Decker, as well as members of her staff. The Flory Small Business Center is a regional economic development program established in 1991 to aid local small businesses and startup entrepreneurs in accessing resources and training. They serve the areas of Prince William, Manassas Park, and just do an outstanding job in helping to increase sales, retain jobs, and create new ones. And back in the fall, I was able to attend their 25th anniversary luncheon, where they honored many of the community members who have supported them, as well as highlight some of their successes. In fact, two of them to highlight are Aurora Flight Services, as well as American Military and American Public University, which many of you are familiar with. Both of these businesses were started with strong vision but little money, and over the years, each were able to grow and become internationally recognized companies bringing attention to the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Flory is a recipient of local, state, and national awards, and Mr. President, I ask that you provide the Flory Center, Ms. Decker, and her staff the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Flory Small Business Center please rise? Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, and welcome to the Senate Gallery. And thanks for all that you do to promote small business. We are all in this together, and we want to promote businesses throughout the Commonwealth. And we know that the small businesses are really the backbone of our economy. So appreciate all of you do for your advocacy for small businesses. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Flory Small Business Center the warm welcome of the Senate. The senior senator from Bath County, Senator Deeds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Today we're joined in the gallery by a group of FFA students from Nelson County with their teachers, their coach, Ed McCann, who's retiring, and some parents who are chaperoning. Tomorrow we'll be voting on Senate Joint Resolution 389 to commend this team for a second-place finish at the 89th National FFA Convention and Expo. Mr. President, this group does well every single year. This is one of the premier FFA programs in the country. And Mr. McCann has just done a fantastic job, and these kids have just done wonderful work. We need to be real proud of them, and I ask you to give them the warm greetings to the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Nelson County High School FFA please rise? Thank you all. And Mr. McCann, thank you so much for your leadership over the years, and thanks for making the trip to Richmond today, and congratulations on all of your all's accomplishments, and we wish you the best in your future endeavors. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Nelson County High FFA the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining us today is Team Favola in the gallery. Two interns have worked in my office this session, Samantha Lewis and Destiny Boyd. Both of these interns are from VCU. They're energetic, bright, and very enthusiastic about being part of this whole process in the General Assembly. Also with us is Vincent Klug, who has been doing my communications work this session. And I can say his technical talents are unsurpassed. So we have appreciated having his skills and his enthusiasm as well. And I do want to mention that my administrative assistant, who of course is at her desk, being a receptionist at this time, Susan Charetz, is doing a wonderful job, and we've really enjoyed having her as part of our team. Last but not least is my longtime aide, Arlene Spinelli. Arlene has been with me ever since I've been in the Senate. I knew her when I served on the county board. She is a great community leader. She has been wonderful working with constituents, and she really is the best you can get if you want LA. It's Arlene Spinelli. I'm very sad because she's leaving. She's retiring. And I know I'll miss her. She will not be replaced. I know that. So it's sort of a sad day for me, but we are very grateful for your work, Arlene. So thank you for serving the constituents in the 31st Senate District and the entire Commonwealth. So on that note, Mr. President, I ask that the Senate welcome Team Favola.
I will. Thank you, Senator. Would Arlene Spinelli and then Vincent, Destiny, and Samantha, you've already stood. You're right on cue. So thank you for being with us today, and especially thanks for all the great work you've done to help Senator Favola. We couldn't do this by ourselves, and so we rely on good people to help us get the work of the people done here in Richmond. So best of luck to all of you. And Arlene, I'm supposed to sit down with you a little later and we'll talk about your future. So anyway, we appreciate all that. We're not going to let you retire. That's the bottom line. So, but thank you. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Favola team the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Mr. President, I rise for the purposes of two introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the Senate. Along with the fine senator from Bedford, we are pleased to recognize today Dr. Ken Guerin, who is visiting. He is president of Lynchburg College. We're honored to have him visiting with us in Richmond today. Dr. Guerin earned his Bachelor of Arts degree from Roanoke College, his Master of Arts degree from William & Mary, and his Ph.D. from Virginia Tech. Dr. Guerin has worked in the field of education for 50 years, and he is in his 16th year as president of Lynchburg College. Prior to his academic career, he served for 5 years with the U.S. Space Program, working on the Apollo project at NASA Langley Research Center. His military career began during high school as a private in the 29th Infantry Division, Virginia Army National Guard, and concluded with his retirement as a colonel in the infantry. Dr. Guerin has served on numerous local, state, regional, and national boards, including the Commission of Colleges, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and the Advisory Council of the Foundation for Independent Higher Education. He is the immediate past chair of the Council of Colleges and University Presidents of the Christian Church. He currently serves on the board of directors of the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities and the National Lobbying Group for Independent Higher Education. Dr. Guerin has received many honors and recognition over the years, including the Silver Patrick Henry Medallion by the Piedmont Chapter of the Military Order of World Wars, the Humanitarian of the Year by the Virginia Center for Inclusive Communities, the Roanoke College Medal for Service to College and Community, the Charles Foreman Award of Council of Independent Colleges, and lastly, Dr. Guerin was featured on a front page coverage on the Wall Street Journal for his work on Capitol Hill. The article is titled, "Colleges Showing Their Lobbying Might." Dr. Guerin is married to his wife, Sheila. They have 2 sons, a daughter, and 8 grandchildren. Each of their children has obtained doctoral degrees, and they are all in professions in the field of education. On behalf of the senator from Bedford, I would ask you to offer the warm welcome of the Senate to Dr. Guerin.
Sure will. Thank you, Senator. Would Dr. Ken Guerin please rise? Dr. Guerin, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. And wow, what a list of accomplishments. And thank you for your service to our country. And thanks for what you've done for Lynchburg College. And every time I go to Lynchburg, it just seems to be growing, and that's a good thing. So we appreciate you being with us this afternoon, and we wish you the best in the future. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Dr. Ken Guerin, the president of Lynchburg College, the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Yes, Mr. President, my second introduction. Joining us today, some are here and some are in the House Gallery where they're being introduced by Delegate Matt Ferris, but we are honored to have members of the Appomattox County High School football team, and anybody who pays attention to sports will recognize that they are now 2-time state champions, AA football champions. So I'd ask you to give them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Well, thank you, Senator. Would members from the Appomattox County football team please rise? Well, what a great group. It looks like we may have the entire football team from Appomattox with us. And, thanks for being, just to clarify, you're all in the upper chamber of the General Assembly. So this is where you need to be in the Senate. So we're glad you're here this afternoon. And congratulations on your accomplishments over the years. And, one thing to look forward to, and I'm sure some of you all will go on and play collegiate football and sports, and we have great colleges and universities right here in Virginia, so we hope you'll continue to contribute both academically and on the athletic field right here in the Commonwealth. So I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Appomattox County football team the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, ladies and gentlemen, today we have several groups that provide home visiting services, and they're in the gallery this afternoon, and I think some of them might be watching from other rooms. This year, they have coordinated their day on the Hill. The groups that are represented are the Early Impact Virginia, CHIP, Healthy Family Virginia, and Parents as Teachers. Other home visiting models include nurse-family partnerships, Early Head Start, Resource Mothers, and Healthy Start Loving Steps. Working together to leverage resources, Virginia's Home Visiting Network provided more than 75,000 home visits to more than 9,000 families in 112 communities throughout the Commonwealth during the year 2016, and we need more. Mr. President, I would appreciate it if you would join me in welcoming these wonderful groups to the Capitol today and extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the home visiting groups please rise? Well, what a great crowd we have with us, and thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. And just as the good senator from Portsmouth said, thank you all so much for what you do with your home visits. And I've been on those tours, and these folks need our help. Mothers, fathers, children, to make sure that they all have what they need to be successful and productive members of our society. And just as she said, for probably every one home that you can visit, there are probably 10 others that we need to visit. So it's good to be here to advocate for the importance of that to your legislators. So we thank you for that. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the home visiting groups of Virginia the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Today in the gallery, I have a very dear friend of mine who is a public informational, motivational speaker, a life coach, just a great all-around person and community leader. And her name is Jennifer Elizabeth Haynes Young. And we actually attend the same church together, and she's an amazing prayer warrior. And I'm just so appreciative that she took time to spend time with us today.
Thank you, Senator. Is Jennifer Young with us today? Jennifer, thank you so much for visiting us, and thanks for all the great work you've done in helping folks across Virginia. Sounds like you've touched a lot of lives, and we hope you will continue to do so. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Ms. Jennifer Young the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of 4 introductions.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you. The first one is for the Reverend Jacob Psalms, and yes, that's pronounced Psalms like in the Bible. And he was our pastor for the day to give us our opening prayer. And he is the pastor of United Methodist Church in Hopewell. The mission of the Wesley United Methodist Church is to make disciples of Christ for the transformation of the world. The church is actively involved in enriching the Hopewell community, holding a variety of youth events and raising funds to aid those most vulnerable in the community. I thank Reverend Psalms for being here with us today, and he had to leave early because he has more work to be done. And so I would say in his absence, Mr. President, I would ask that we still give him the warm welcome of the Senate.
I will. Thank you, Senator. And to Reverend Psalms, we do appreciate him having been here this morning to get us off on a good start. And I would ask the members of the Senate to please join me in giving Reverend Psalms a thank you and the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier this morning, I had the opportunity to greet Dr. Ted Respiller, president of John Tyler Community College, and a group of aspiring students. Since 1967, John Tyler Community College has been serving the community as a public two-year institution of higher education, with campuses in Chesterfield and Midlothian and off-campus classrooms throughout the area. Their majors, services, and community partnerships are as diverse as the urban, suburban, and rural areas that they serve. Mr. President, John Tyler Community College is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. I introduced Senate Joint Resolution 259 earlier this session that commends John Tyler on 50 great years of service to our community. And, Mr. President, on behalf of the senior senator from Richmond, the senator from Chesterfield, and myself, I ask that we give this group the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Are members from John Tyler Community College with us this afternoon? Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and what a great educational opportunity you all have. As you know, we have 23 great community colleges across our Commonwealth, and they're doing so much good work in helping folks enter the workforce. So we appreciate all of your efforts, and you have our support. I can promise you that as legislators here. So I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from John Tyler Community College the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also in the gallery today are representatives from the Virginia State University Family and Consumer Sciences. Family and Consumer Sciences is a comprehensive body of skills, research, and knowledge that helps people make informed decisions about their well-being, relationships, and resources to achieve optimal quality of life. The field represents many areas, including human development, personal and family finance, housing and interior design, food science, nutrition and wellness, textiles and apparel, and consumer issues. Today's professionals practice in multiple settings. They are early childhood, elementary, secondary, university, college, and extension educators, administrators, and managers, human service professionals, researchers, community volunteers, business people, and consultants who address the issues most important to our quality of life. And, Mr. President, on behalf of the senior senator from Richmond, the senator from Chesterfield, and myself, I ask that we give this group the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would members from the Family and Consumer Science please rise? Thank you all so much for visiting us here this afternoon, and appreciate all of your advocacy, just as was outlined by the good senator from Petersburg, and I hope you'll continue your good work. And we hope you have a wonderful visit here this afternoon in Mr. Jefferson's capital. I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering members from the Family and Consumer Science Group the warm welcome of the Senate. The senator from Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I truly have saved the best of the best for the last, Mr. President. Yesterday, the Senate agreed to House Joint Resolution 901. This resolution that is co-patroned by Delegate Aird in the House and I in the Senate commends Mrs. Elizabeth Roberts. Mrs. Roberts is a vibrant member of the Petersburg community and celebrated her 105th, yes, 105th birthday on November the 8th, 2016. She was born before women in the United States achieved the right to vote with the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Mrs. Roberts first exercised her civic duty in 1942 and proudly celebrated her 105th birthday at her polling place, casting her vote in the historic 2016 presidential election with Hillary Rodham Clinton on the ballot as the first female presidential nominee of a major political party in the United States. Throughout her life, Mrs. Roberts has been a witness to history, experiencing firsthand the many ways the world was reshaped in the 20th century and now in the 21st century. She will continue to impart her wisdom to her beloved family and friends. Mr. President, she really softened my heart even more today when she told me that every night when she goes to bed, she looks at my picture. Is that amazing? I thought so, Mr. President. And I would tell you that today she is special, and we wanted to make sure we keep this fragile but very strong, awesome 105-year-old woman of the Commonwealth safe. So she is escorted, she would say accompanied because she doesn't need an escort, by her favorite sheriff, the Honorable Vanessa Crawford of Petersburg, and Mr. President, your brother from another mother, Reverend Kenneth Northam. Mr. President, I would ask that you give Mrs. Roberts and her escorts the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank you, Senator. Would Mrs. Elizabeth Roberts and Sheriff Vanessa Crawford and the Reverend Kevin Northam please rise? And Miss Roberts, what a wonderful day it is to have you with us today, and to be 105. You've seen a lot of life, and I know you've touched a lot of lives, and we need to all visit with you and see what your secret is to being over 100 years old. So what a remarkable achievement that is, and we're so happy that you're here today. Sheriff Crawford, it's always good seeing you. Thank you for your public service, and thank you for keeping our streets and our community safe. And to my brother, Reverend Kevin Northam. Kevin and I grew up together on the Eastern Shore. He has gone on to start and lead just a very successful church in Dinwiddie, Virginia, and we're so proud of you, Kevin, and I always enjoy it when you come back and visit us on the Eastern Shore, and we just hope you the best, wish you the best, and thanks for all the lives that you have touched. So I'd ask the members of the Senate to please join me in offering Miss Elizabeth Roberts, Sheriff Vanessa Crawford, and Reverend Kevin Northam, and your deputy with you, the warm welcome of the Senate. And if we have other visitors in the gallery that I haven't recognized and introduced, we certainly welcome you this afternoon, and thanks for being with us here today. The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I step forward to join in recognizing our distinguished guest that was just introduced, I recognized a couple additional visitors that are constituents of mine from Eastern Rockingham County. That would be Erwin and Carol Michael, who are from Eastern Rockingham County. They have a contracting firm, and also they own a well-known furniture manufacturing company, been in existence since 1839. And so I would ask, Mr. President, you to recognize this couple from Eastern Rockingham.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. and Ms. Michael, if you could please rise. Thank you for making the trip from Augusta County, and I hope you all have a wonderful visit with us here this afternoon, and I'm glad you're here to keep an eye on Senator Hanger. We appreciate that. So please, I would ask the Senator, please join me in offering Mr. and Ms. Michael the warm welcome of the Senate. The clerk will please call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Wednesday, February 15th, 2017. Unfinished business House Bill 2302. The House has rejected the Senate amendments.
The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate recede from its amendments. And speaking to that motion,
the senator has the floor.
This bill is started out identical to that of the gentleman from Spotsylvania that has already passed both houses. The Senate amendment would have put the two bills in conflict.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate recede from its amendments to House Bill 2302? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate recedes from its amendments.
House Bill 1477. The House has acceded to the Senate's request for a committee of conference and conferees on the part of the Senate as named by the chairman of local Chairman of Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources, Senator Stewart, are Senators Hanger, Suderline, and Mason. On House Bill 1520, the House has acceded to the request for a committee of conference and conferees on the part of the Senate as named by the Chair of Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources, Senator Stewart, are Senators DeStuff, Suderline, and McClellan. We are awaiting House action on House Bill 74. Unfinished business Senate Bill 894 has passed the House with amendments.
The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendment. And speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment was made at the request of the Department of Behavioral Health. And what we did is we removed the word critical incident and inserted serious injury. And that clarification was important in terms of the reporting requirements that this bill requires.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendments.
Senate Bill 944 has passed the House with amendment.
The senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendment. It's a silly little amendment. They added a period. To a paragraph that wasn't there. So I move that we agree to it.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 34, noes 5.
Ayes 34, noes 5. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 974 has passed the House with a substitute.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we concur with the House substitute.
The senator has the floor.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, on Senate Bill 970, am I on the right bill? Yeah, 974, it requires the Department of Health to make informed information about resources on palliative care available on the Public Health Providers Network.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 975 has passed the House with amendment.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I move that we concur with the House amendment.
The senator has the floor.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, what this bill does, it provides that the duties of a Community Services Board include reviewing any existing memorandum of understanding between the Community Services Boards and any other Community Services Boards that serve the regional jail to ensure that such memorandum sets forth the role and responsibilities of each Community Services Board in the pre-admission screening process.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1048 has passed the House with a substitute.
The senator from Augusta County, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House substitute provides some technical and clarifying amendments to this bill, which would make the process for amending a death certificate a little bit easier. I move that we concur with the House substitute.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House substitute? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House substitute.
Senate Bill 1180 has passed the House with amendment.
The senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I recommend that we reject the House amendment. And speaking to that,
The senator has the floor.
I believe that the House was confused. There was a very good amendment, and I'll tell you why I believe that. I have a good reason. The bill that I have here had a very good amendment offered by Senator Donovan, and we put that amendment on it. The House bill that Delegate Pillion had accepted that amendment and actually conformed to this bill. And then when my bill went over there, they took that amendment off. So I know there's some confusion in the House. And so therefore, I move that we reject the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. With the recommendation that it be rejected, the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 0, noes 40.
Ayes 0, noes 40. The House amendment is rejected.
Senate Bill 1229 is passed the House with amendment.
The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments. This is really just a technical change on some parameters that they're using to measure visual fields that will be readdressed by the Medical Review Board this year.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1242 is passed the House with amendments.
The senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments. These are really just some language amendments that are immaterial to the substance of the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 0.
Ayes 39, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendments.
Senate Bill 1250 has passed the House with amendment.
The senator from Grayson County, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we concur with the House amendments. When the bill went over to the House, the Senate had capitalized motor vehicle safety inspection program so they could see it well. They caught it and they put it back in the proper form. So I ask that we concur.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 38, noes 2.
Ayes 38, noes 2. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1251 has passed the House with a substitute.
The senator from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, could that bill go by for the day, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 1251 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 1366 has passed the House with amendment.
The senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that we concur with the House amendment in speaking the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, this is the TNC update bill, not the PTNC update bill. And what the House has done is they've put an emergency clause on it, but also indicated that it would also be March 1, whichever one is later.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Senate Bill 1511 has passed the House with amendments.
The senior senator from Bath County, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I move that we concur with the amendments. These amendments are identical to the ones the Senate committee imposed on House Bill 1548, which was an identical bill that came over from the other side. We just passed the day before yesterday.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendments.
Senate Bill 1546 has passed the House with amendments.
The senator from Fauquier County, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we concur with the House amendments and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill actually bans a number of chemical compounds that are similar to heroin, and the amendments are merely technical. There was a number 5 left out of one of the compounds in 2 places, and so I would ask that the Senate confer with the House amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendments? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendments.
We are awaiting House action on the remaining bills. Uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading.
The senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed Senate Bill 944, I would move that that bill be reconsidered.
Senator, what page is that?
It's on page 4.
Right. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the vote by which the Senate concurred with the House amendment be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The motion is agreed to. The senator from Russell County, Senator Chafin.
Mr. President, could that go by temporarily?
Yes, Senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 944 will go by temporarily.
Uncontested calendar, House bills on third reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move all the House bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all House bills on pages 10 through 15, including House Bill 1922 through House Bill 2467, be placed on their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator who desires to remove a House bill from the block should please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House bills on the uncontested calendar, third readings, pages 10 through 15, House Bill 1922 through House Bill 2467, be placed upon their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the number of the bills.
House Bill 1922, the committee amendment has been adopted by the Senate.
The senator from Prince William County.
Can House Bill 1922 come out of the block and by for the day?
Without objection, House Bill 1922 will come out of the block and by for the day.
House Bill 1525, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Mr. President.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Surville.
Could House Bill 1525 come out of the block and go by for the day?
Without objection, House Bill 1525 will come out of the block and by for the day.
House Bill 1622, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. House Bill 1851, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain.
I don't want to continue this ball rolling, but I want this to come out of the block and by for the day.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, House Bill 1851 will come out of the block and by for the day.
House Bill 1855, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
The senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the substitute be agreed?
Mr. President.
The senator from, from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Can that bill come out of the block and go by for the day?
Without objection, House Bill 1855 will come out of the block and by for the day.
House Bill 2051, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
Mr. President.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
I'm certain that there are absolute good basis for passing these bills by for the day. As you reflect on that, if we are going to have to come back in several hours, if there's an opportunity to address whatever concerns there are on these bills, we could pass them by temporarily rather than continue to load this up.
Thank you, Senator.
House Bill 2051, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator.
I'm sorry. I move the committee substitute.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is agreed to.
House Bill 2064, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendment.
The senator from Rockingham.
I move the committee substitute.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
House Bill 2127, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. House Bill 2184, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. House Bill 2231, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. House Bill 2338, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendments.
Senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 2386, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendment.
The senator from Rockingham.
Move the committee amendments be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
House Bill 2462, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. House Bill 2467, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendment.
The senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendment be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The question is, shall the House bills pass in block? That is, all bills except for 1922, 1525, 1851, and 1855. All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, noes 0.
Ayes 40, noes 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, House bills on third reading. House Bill 1411, a bill relating to withdrawal of privately retained counsel report, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move the bill move the passage of the bill. And speaking to that, this bill got a little bit of attention before session and has undergone a bit of transformation since the beginning of session. It deals with the ability of an attorney to withdraw from the representation of someone. It started out as withdrawal in any proceeding whatsoever. It's been narrowed to cover only criminal proceedings and only allows the withdrawal of counsel within 10 days after certification of the charges from General District Court to Circuit Court for any reason.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1411 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The bill passes.
House Bill 2035, a bill relating to electronic filing of land records fee for paper filing, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to that, this is a companion to a bill that Senator from Stafford carried to encourage persons to utilize the electronic systems being implemented in our circuit courts across the Commonwealth that authorizes a small fee to be charged if you file other than electronically. This conforms with other practices that we've adopted in order to encourage utilization of those electronic systems. It is an efficiency bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 2035 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 2, Rule 36-2.
Ayes 36, noes 2, Rule 36-2. The bill passes.
House Bill 2240, a bill relating to crime victims' right to non-disclosure of certain information, murder. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendment.
The senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, I yield to the senator from Stafford.
The senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the amendment be adopted.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The senator from Stafford.
And I'd move the bill pass. And speaking to that,
the senator has the floor.
Mr. President, what House Bill 2240 deals with is the ability to publicly disclose the identity of victims of crimes, and you would need the permission of the victim, or in the case of a minor, you would need the victim's parents' consent. And the theory behind that is there's simply some families who just don't want to have to go through that, knowing if a child was, God forbid, something happened to them, they don't want it publicly disclosed. Has nothing to do with the investigation of the case. So the police have this information. They can investigate it thoroughly. It just simply deals with the public disclosure of the identity of that victim. And in some cases, families don't want that information disclosed.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 2240, the senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the gentleman rise for a question?
Would the senator from Stafford yield for a question?
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
So is it correct that this applies not only to juveniles but also to adults?
The senator from Stafford.
Mr. President, it certainly deals with juveniles, Mr. President, because that was the amendment that we made, and I thought let that go by temporarily so I can make sure.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, House Bill 2240 will go by temporarily.
House Bill 2424, a bill relating to carrying concealed weapons, former attorneys for the Commonwealth and assistant attorneys for the Commonwealth. Reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to that, this bill simply provides that retired or former Commonwealth attorneys and retired and former deputy Commonwealth attorneys shall have permission, have the ability to carry a firearm. And it sets strict limitations. It requires that they leave in good standing. They have to carry with them a written certification from their former boss if it's an assistant Commonwealth attorney. And if they can't fulfill those conditions, then they can go get in line and get a concealed carry permit.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson.
Gentleman yield for a question.
Would the senator yield for a question?
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
I'd simply ask, is there any obstacle from these folks just going and taking a class to get a concealed carry permit?
The senator from Rockingham.
Mr. President, I would say no, there's not. However, a couple of things to point out. Number one is it takes time. And it may be that these folks have had their gun rights while they are a deputy or a Commonwealth attorney, and then during that 30 to 60-day period that it may take for them to get a permit, they may not be able to carry. Moreover, these are folks who have been engaged in criminal prosecutions. Many of them are violent crimes, and this gives them the right to carry in places where you couldn't carry even with a permit.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 2424 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 10.
Ayes 30, noes 10. The bill passes.
Go back.
Which one?
Streets.
Or do you want to go back to 943?
If we could return to page 4. Senate Bill 944, Senator Chafin, are you prepared to make that motion?
I am.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, thank you. Having previously explained the amendment, I move that the Senate concur with the House amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House amendment on Senate Bill 944? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The Senate concurs with the House amendment.
Uncontested calendar, House bills on second reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I now move that all of the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendar, which would include all House bills on pages 17 through 46, including House Bill 1500 through House Bill 2390, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and that the second constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the second reading of the titles of House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 17 through 46, House Bill 1500 through House Bill 2390, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would now move that, I would now move that all of the House bills be passed by for the day with the following exceptions. Is that all right, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On page 17, House Bill 1500, 1543, 1890. On page 18, 2113, 2249, and 2250, all on the contested calendar. I would move that all of the remaining bills on the second reading uncontested calendar be passed by for the day.
Thank you, Senator. Do you want to include the ones on the regular calendar that we're passing by as well? There's two of them.
Mr. President, I don't think I've addressed the regular calendar yet.
Well, we could, I was just going to say we could, for efficiency's sake, we could include them in this motion. But
Mr. President, if it'll make you happy, I will move that all of those remaining bills other than on page 40 and 41, 1883 and 2411 be passed by for the day. I was going to handle the regular calendar separately, but I want to keep you happy, sir.
I'd love to be happy. Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the House bills on the uncontested and regular calendars now on third reading go by for the day? That is all except for House Bill 1500, 1543, 1890, 2113, 2249, 2250, 1883, and 2411. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. The senator from James City County.
Okay, hit the right button here, sir. Mr. President, I would now move that House Bills 1500, 1543, 890, 2113, 2249, and 2250 be placed on their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so. No, after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Senator, if we could go back and do the ones that weren't taken out of the block and pass them for the...
That's what he's doing.
Yes. Oh, I thought you all were.
You're happy.
Okay. Actually, what we need, you need to come up here and I'll come out there. How about that?
I'm mindful of the comments you shared with me, so I'll pass today, sir.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 17 through 19, House Bill 1500 through House Bill 2250, be placed upon their final passage in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, with the understanding that any senator desiring a bill removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will please read the number of the bills.
House Bill 1500, reported from the Committee on Finance with Senate amendments substituted for House amendments.
The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Finance Committee amendments be agreed to.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the amendments be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendments are agreed to.
House Bill 1543, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 1890, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 2113, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 2249, reported from the Committee on Finance. House Bill 2250, reported from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The question is, shall the House bills pass in block? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar House bills on third reading. House Bill 1883, a bill relating to enforcement of occupational safety and health laws, civil penalties, reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that House Bill 1883 pass, and speaking to that motion.
Senator has the floor.
What House Bill 1883 does is basically move the penalty standards for occupational safety health violations in the course of due inspections to the level that's been dictated to us by the federal government that we must raise these rates to. The threat from the federal government is that if we don't make this change to our code and raise the allowable fines up to these levels, that they will take away the Virginia Occupational Safety Health Administration's ability to do those inspections, and they can only be done by the federal OSHA. So most businesses around the Commonwealth and those reluctantly support this bill because they prefer to have the inspections performed by the Virginia Occupational Safety Health Administration as opposed to the feds doing those inspections. So with that explanation, Mr. President, I would renew the motion that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 1883 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 8.
Ayes 31, noes 8. The bill passes.
House Bill 2411, a bill relating to health insurance reversion of provisions upon the repeal of the Federal Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, health benefit plans, individual and group coverage, market reforms, open enrollment programs, plan management functions, coordination with federal exchange, internal and external review processes, license tax. Reported from the Committee on Commerce and Labor with amendment.
The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill pass, and speaking to that, hopefully shorter than the clerk's announcement of the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Committee.
Senator, we need a pass.
First, I'd move that the committee amendment pass.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The senior senator.
And now, by way of explanation again, Mr. President, what this bill does is, you're aware, when the Affordable Care Act passed, we had to go through and revise a number of provisions within the Code of Virginia to make sure that our Virginia Health Insurance Code mirrored that requirements of the Affordable Care Act. There is great anticipation that the Affordable Care Act will somehow either be modified or repealed in its entirety in Washington based on some of the press releases and things going on in Washington at this point. This bill, what it does is anticipate that there will be some type of repeal or revision of the Affordable Care Act, and that automatically our code would revert back to, in those areas that are allowed based on whatever bill Congress may pass, reverts back to the way the language was originally. That's the explanation of the bill. Again, I renew my motion that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Would the senator from Virginia Beach yield for a question?
Would the senior senator from Virginia Beach yield?
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
Well, I would ask the senator, while it's likely that the Affordable Care Act may be repealed and replaced in some portions, we keep hearing that from Washington, although we haven't seen a plan yet, does this bill repeal only those portions that are changed from Washington, and does it replace them with other provisions?
The senior senator.
My understanding of the bill is that it reverts it back to the way the Code of Virginia was originally before we put the revisions in to comply with the Affordable Care Act. And the intent of the bill is to make sure that as Congress revises or changes the health care rules at the federal level, that in fact Virginia will stay in compliance with those, but come back to what the patron feels would be the most competitive natures in terms of cost of health insurance.
Would the gentleman yield for one more question?
Would the senior senator yield?
Sure.
He yields, Senator.
Thank you. The senator said that it would see that we remain in compliance, and I just wanted to know, does it make any provisions if what's needed to comply is different than what there are today? Or would it merely just cancel what we've got now?
The senior senator from Virginia Beach.
It's my understanding that it would cancel, and if there were some applicable portions from the previous code that we had in place for whatever given section of health care, that in fact would become the rules that Virginia would operate under. But again, it would be my expectation that if Congress was to pass something, that we're all going to be back here shortly thereafter to deal with a number of different issues. But this, again, is an anticipatory in nature, realizing that we may not be in session when these changes come.
Thank you, Senator.
Speaking very briefly against
Senator
the bill.
Alexander, you have the floor.
Yes, I would just say what this is talking about is repealing pieces of the Affordable Care Act and not replacing them. And since we have no clue what Congress is going to do, this is a bit premature, and I would ask folks to vote no.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Servell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, the gentleman from Virginia Beach, yield for a question.
Would the senior senator yield? He yield.
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
Sure. So I was reading the enactment clause, which talks about, I guess, repealing the Affordable Care Act. I'm trying to decide how do you figure out whether the Affordable Care Act has been repealed. So, for example, suppose we keep the pre-existing condition exclusion. Does that mean the Affordable Care Act got repealed or not, if we keep pieces of it?
The senior senator.
I don't know the answer, to be honest with you. I don't know if that counts as a full repeal or just that one portion, if it was pre-existing conditions or age that a right. child can be on the parent's health insurance policy. Right. I don't know, would that be considered a full repeal or not?
All right. Would the gentleman yield for a further question?
Would the senator yield for an additional question?
Yes.
He yields, Senator.
So, and again, I agree with you. I don't know what it means either, and I've read it, and it doesn't say full repeal or partial repeal or 20% repeal or 80% repeal. So I'm also just curious, the bill doesn't seem to state who decides whether it's repealed or not. So, I mean, I'm not clear. Do we have to go to our Attorney General and ask him whether this law is in effect, or do we go to Bill Hazel, or do we go to the governor? I mean, who decides whether or not the Affordable Care Act's been repealed so that this law is then effective? Or I'm not clear how our markets and everybody else is supposed to figure out what to do or when it's repealed, given the way this is written. Can the gentleman elucidate that for me?
The senior senator.
And again, Mr. President, I don't know how the federal legislation reads. I know in the state, every time there's a bill, it says repeal and replace at the state level, and I would consider that if the federal bill said repeal and replace, then that would be considered an action by the federal government that in fact repealed the Affordable Care Act and replaced it with whatever Congress comes up with. And so at that point, I suppose you have a legal definition that yes, it was repealed, and yes, it was replaced with another bill. And within the reenactment clause, I would also point out that this bill would become effective 1 July 2017, or when the act is repealed and replaced, whichever is later. And so it very much looks at that. But I would assume that a repeal and a replace, if Congress comes up with that, that would be considered a repeal. And I would assume that the governor at the time would then consider that it was repealed, and that this act would take effect.
Gentleman, yield for another question.
Would the senator yield for an additional question?
Sure.
He yields, Senator.
I mean, I think normally when we have an occurrence like this, some future occurrence where a law doesn't become effective until something happens, normally there's some person in the government that makes a certification that something's happened so that everybody knows that the condition has been met in the whole world, the insurance companies, the public, our Department of Health has a clue what the deal is. I mean, I'm not, as a gentleman, was there any discussion in committee as to requiring an actual certification point? Because I know, for example, we just had a discussion earlier in the session about a gentleman from the city of Fairfax, the senator from the city of Fairfax's bill about repeal of the Clean Power Plan. And I know that the stakeholders in that bill showed up and said, well, we don't know how to figure out if something's been repealed or not because they might not repeal the whole thing. And the committee felt that there was too much ambiguity there to go there. So was there any discussion about sort of designate a person within our government to certify that the Affordable Care Act, in fact, has been repealed enough to constitute a repeal for purposes of this bill?
The senior senator.
Mr. President, we got to a question, I guess, there eventually. Let me answer by this statement. I think the whole world's going to know that when it's repealed and reenacted, I don't think we'll have any problem or knowledge of knowing when that happens. I suspect the whole world and the entire country and Congress, if and when a bill is signed by the president, everybody's going to know that it's been repealed and replaced, and I don't think there'll be any ambiguity. But there was no discussion to answer the question to the final answer. There was no discussion about who within the state government would decide that it has been repealed and reenacted or not. So there has been no discussion, but I don't think there'll be any. I think the hue and cry across the country, whichever way it goes, on whatever side you're on, will be heard, and I don't think there'll be any doubt one way or the other whether it's been repealed.
Thank you, Senator.
Speaking of the bill.
Yes, the senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt where this bill's headed if it gets out of here and what the governor's going to do with it, but it just seems to me this thing ain't ready for prime time. The way it's written right now, I think it'll just actually inject more uncertainty and chaos into our current healthcare market than doing nothing, because I don't think anybody's going to be able to figure out whether or not this bill is alive or not without going to a judge and asking a judge to say whether or not the Affordable Care Act's been repealed enough to be repealed, or whether repealing one sentence of the Affordable Care Act is enough to trigger this or not. I mean, I just think this the way this is structured, it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know why we're passing it. I mean, I know why we're passing it. I know why we're debating it. But as in terms of serious policy matter, I just don't think this legislation is going to accomplish anything except create a lot of confusion. I would hope we vote it down.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, will the senior senator from Virginia Beach yield for a question?
Would the senator yield?
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
Mr. President, would the senator answer the question, isn't this at best putting the cart before the horse?
The senior senator from Virginia Beach.
Mr. President, I would reply to the senator from Roanoke City that no, I don't believe it is, because if this action happens, and I don't know what the letter of the law, and no one does at this point, what Congress will pass and what will happen and what timing the Congress, if they give any at all, in terms of implementing whatever new health care plan that they come up with, that we need to be able to respond very nimbly here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so I think this bill would be altogether appropriate.
Mr. President, speaking against the bill,
the senator has the floor.
I think the senator's answer explains why this bill makes no sense at all. It's strictly a political bill. We know that. The Congress has talked about, I don't know for how many years now, repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act. Here it is. We've been into, with the new administration, almost a month, not quite. They have no clue as to what they're going to do. Nobody has a clue as to what they're going to do. They keep talking about, well, maybe this year, maybe next year. We have no idea what's going to happen. It may be nothing's going to happen. It makes absolutely no sense to pass a bill anticipating something that may or may not ever happen. And if it does happen, you don't even know what it's going to be. So this bill means nothing. It can accomplish absolutely nothing. It makes no sense to support this bill. It's strictly a political bill, which is really the worst kind of bill. And so I'd hope we would just say no to this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall House Bill 2411 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, nor are the senators ready to vote. Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 21, noes 19.
Ayes 21, noes 19. The bill passes. Senator, if we could return to page 16. House Bill 2240, the senator from Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, in order to answer the gentleman from Loudoun's question, I had to take just a minute because I was second-guessing myself on this bill. But what this bill, as I indicated before, it would require the permission of both an adult victim or a minor's parents to disclose the information about their being a victim of particular sex crimes, and that's what the bill is. I hope that answers the gentleman's question.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Fairfax City.
Gentleman, yield for a question.
Would the senator from Stafford yield? He yields, Senator.
If the victim is deceased, how do you get the permission of the victim?
The senator from Stafford.
Mr. President, I think that's if a minor. You would get it from the parents. Otherwise, I'm not sure you could get it.
The senator from Fairfax City.
Further question, and I...
Would the senator yield?
yield.
Does he yield, Senator?
I mean, a minor has two parents. What if one is okay with disclosure and the other is not?
The senator from Stafford.
Mr. President, that could present an issue, and I think that most people, if they sought to get this permission, would attempt to get it from both parents, or they wouldn't disclose it.
The senator from Fairfax City.
Final further question.
If Senator yield for an additional question.
Oh, I
He
yield.
yields, Senator.
Let's say a news outlet gets permission from one parent and not the other and then publishes the information. Is it in violation of the statute?
Senator from Stafford.
Mr. President, I would suggest it'd probably be a good idea to get the permission from both parents as opposed to just one. That's the best way I can answer that question.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. The question is, shall House Bill 2240 pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 30, noes 10.
Ayes 30, noes 10. The bill passes. The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm now going to, well, first of all, an announcement, if I may, please, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, we're going to try to start holding some conference committee meetings on the budget. Those of you that are involved in the higher education conference discussions, if you would please watch the calendar around 3 o'clock. We're going to try to see if we can do a pass-through on higher education. On that, Mr. President, I'm going to respectfully ask that we now stand in recess until 4:30. Several of the committees still have a revenue bill or two to consider, which we've got to report today. So I'd ask that we stand in recess at the conclusion of any other announcements until 4:30.
Thank you, Senator. The clerk will please report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Wednesday, February 15th, the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources will meet immediately upon recess at the chair's desk. The Committee for Courts of Justice will meet 15 minutes after recess in Senate Room B. The Committee on Transportation will meet 15 minutes after recess in Senate Room A.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Senate will stand in recess until 4:30 this afternoon.